actually, no, it wasn't the A12. It was the Pancor jackhammer, which is not a real gun. So the Pancor jackhammer, little story about this gun, has been in a lot of video games. It's a very distinctive looking automatic shotgun. It looks really futuristic. It's kind of crazy, and as a result, a lot of video games picked it up. The thing is, this gun was never actually put into production. This is the only prototype that exists that I put up on the screen right now. It was designed, I think, by a guy who was a Korean War veteran who used to be a shotgunner, and he decided, you know what, shotguns are terrible. I'm going to make a better one. And he designed it. He was never able to sell it, so there's only one remaining. But it's been in a bunch of video games, despite the fact that that gun has never existed. And it's called the Jackhammer in most video games. I'm gonna see if there's a list. There's got to be a list of games that have the Jackhammer in it.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, you're probably quite familiar with it. It was in Max Payne, it was in Fallout 2, it was in the original Far Cry, it was in the original Battlefield 2, Rainbow Six 3, Sum of All Fears, Fallout Tactics, Project IGI, Delta Force Land Warrior, 7.62 High Caliber, Warface Ghost Recon Phantoms, Counter-Strike Online, The Darkness had it, Battlefield 3 had
Brody used it in Predators.
Did he?
Apparently, that's what the internet tells me. That's the first time it was in a movie.
Yeah, it has been in quite a few movies because people really like the look of it because it looks very futuristic. But in reality, this gun was never mass-produced. There is only one left in the world that is, I believe, functional. Kind of sad story, really. The guy raised a ton of money. It was obviously a very good gun, and then nobody bought it. So there you go.
Politics.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of politics involved in it, you know.
Don't worry, man. Trump will bring it back.
He bloody well better not.
Gotta shoot something.
Hugely impractical. Like, do we actually need a shotgun that's that ridiculous? Probably not. But yeah, go ask Trump about the Pancor jackhammer and whether or not he will make America great again with it. If so, please don't vote for him. Alright, that's the political stuff out of the way. Let's get back to video games. So, after the gun nerding out, what else have we been playing? Who's going to throw a hat in the ring? I got a few, but...
I played a really good game.
What's that?
This week. It was called Moon Hunters.
Oh, yes, I recall you...
Square Enix game? The one that Square was trying to, like... It was part of their like, Kickstarter program they have?
I don't know. All I know is developed by a friend of Steven, who does the roleplay stuff with us.
Yeah, Stephen Lumpkin, yes.
Yeah. It's like an indie developed game, but like basically it's full-player multiplayer. It's a very short, sporadic roleplay game, but with like hundreds of different branches. And basically you start off on the continent with randomly generated locations, and depending on who you meet and who you speak to and what you do, the ending is adjusted to compensate. And you unlock things each playthrough, and then you play again with a different character, and you unlock more stuff. And it was really, really fun and cool.
Is it out, or did you get a...
Yeah, it's out.
I think it's out. It's coming out... I think it just came out on GOG yesterday.
Cool.
But it's already on Steam.
Yeah, this was part of Square Enix's collective initiative that they're doing, where they like pick out a few games that they think are really, really good, and they promote the hell out of them. This was one of those. So
yeah, it was great. I loved it. It was really good, and it also has online multiplayer too, so you can play with friends.
Head up.
What's the name of it again? Sorry, Moon
Hunters.
Moon Hunters. You sorts are going to cost me a fortune.
This tends to happen every now and again, especially if we had a good week. We're not done yet either. We've got plenty more. I heard some people were criticizing the actual combat gameplay of Moon Hunters. Like, that wasn't that good. What do you reckon to that, as someone that plays quite a lot of ARPGs?
I mean, the combat really isn't a big element of the game. It's like there's like boss encounters, and the boss encounters are totally fine. The combat isn't the standout aspect of the game. The standout aspect is like the exploration and just trying to get the different endings and stuff. But I didn't have any issues with the combat whatsoever, and I played every class. Some of them are harder than others, obviously, but there's like little merchants throughout the game, and you can save up points during that playthrough, and then you can like buy upgrades for your combat and stuff. I don't know, like. Me and Dodger streamed it for like 7 hours, and no one complained about the combat.
Yeah, there was a few people that for some reason, definitely on Steam, were saying that the game's combat was lacking and that they didn't like it as a result. I think maybe they went into it expecting Diablo and didn't get it.
Yeah, or, expecting like Divinity Original Sin or something. It's not that kind of game.
I like the aesthetic of it. I'm not 100% keen on the
it's
character
beautiful.
art, but I like the actual game itself. It looks pencil by the looks of it, very pencil style. A little bit of an
Yeah.
Asian influence to it, I think. You know, a little bit Japanese, maybe a little bit of oil painting in there. But it is a co-op game. I did like the idea that apparently what you do affects the outcome. I love games like that. I'm big into them.
Yeah, so like throughout the game, you'll be given like options, choices, and stuff, and depending on what you do, you get like attributes. You might get like you might save a snake, even though it's venomous, and then you get like the brave attribute, and that will let you approach a lion. But if you don't have the brave attribute, you can't approach the lion. So like getting different characteristics opens up different branches for the game, and then like it adjusts the end game to compensate.
That is very Divinity, though, where it's the idea of, like, I unlocked the ability to talk to a dog so that can change my questing, kind of.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But literally, I think, like, it takes you maybe 20 minutes to beat the game.
What?
It's, like, very, very short. Basically, what happens is that the game takes place in a 3-day window. And so you can visit 4 places in that playthrough. But then the next time you play through the game again, and you visit, like, 4 different places to try and see how you can get a better ending. And so, like, you end up playing through the game. I think we played through 12 times with different characters. Because you unlock, like, they have, like, a star system, and you unlock different stuff in the star system. And you keep going. It's pretty cool.
You know, I like this idea because some people really hate that the game is short like that. But to me, that's an
really
advantage.
wears it well.
If it's got replayability, and if the whole point is that every time you do it, you get different story outcomes, that is what I want. That to me is great. I would rather play a bunch of rounds of that.
200-hour Divinity game. You have a 20-minute game that you can like play in small chunks and have different outcomes and play different characters. It's really cool.
I think there's huge value in that, and I don't think that. And the weird thing is that there's actually quite a few games that already do it, but don't really do it in the same way. Basically, Moonhunters is aping things like Binding of Isaac. They're based around short runs. Nobody ever claimed Binding of Isaac was not good value because of that. The whole point is that you keep playing it multiple times and different things happen every time.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Like, you go to a place and the enemies are randomly generated, and there might be a merchant, there might be a boss that appears, and you have to fight the boss. It's just like, yeah, it's completely like RNG.
I want to play that now. I want to play a lot of that, actually. That's on the list of I'm going to play a bunch of sessions of this. God damn it. I'm going to have no time left.
I just bought it. This looks so cool.
It is co-op, but it's 1 to 4 players, so we can maybe run through it.
Yeah.
And Stuart can probably back me up on this one. A lot of us grew up on the back of Choose Your Own Adventure and fighting fantasy books.
Oh, yes.
Indeed.
We certainly did. I have an almost complete selection of Final Fantasy books, fighting fantasy books to this
Easy
day.
mistake to make.
I
keep saying that
at the office, I have volumes 1 through 33 of Choose Your Own Adventure. I've been meaning to do a series where I just read one and then have people animate it. That's like my dream, but I don't know the big ramifications of that, so I haven't done it yet. I haven't really done it yet, but I've always wanted to do that.
A long time ago.
I had the mountain survival one. I think I froze to death every bloody attempt.
I think I had that one too, yeah. It's like, Choose Your Own Adventure, I think, was bigger in the United States, whereas Fighting Fantasy, I think, took off a lot. It's not that you couldn't get them in the UK, you could, but I remember Starship Traveler, which I think was Volume 5 of Fighting Fantasy, which was unbelievably unfair. In fact, most of them were really unfair. That was kind of the point. But the difference between those games and Choose Your Own Adventure is they had a combat system that involved dice.
Huh.
It was like a single-player RPG. Not very good one, but a single-player RPG nonetheless.
There's internal dice rolls in this one too. Like, you can try to do something and you can fail it and succeed it.
Yeah. The cool thing about those books, or indeed the worst thing about those books, is that failing a dice roll could literally just kill you and end the story immediately.
Yeah.
Or just sometimes as they felt like it.
Just on the page, it just says you are dead.
Yes.
There are 2 doors ahead. They're both the same. Do you want to go left or right? Left, you are dead.
Dead. Yeah.
Thanks.
The later ones tended to realize that they were being horribly unfair and started to write into the dialogue clues that would reveal to you that you were going the wrong way or that you made the wrong call. But especially the early ones, it was possible to get on a path where you could not win and get there on that path very early on to the point where you couldn't do a damn thing. So you could you could do a choice early that fucked you for the entire game, and you wouldn't know until you'd read 20 more pages of it. At which point it killed you. That's not ideal.
And that even gets around the classic "keep your thumb in the page" when
It
you
does.
go in case there's an instant death.
That's exactly. They knew that was going to happen, which is why they did that. It's so that you didn't. Oh, it was because the whole choose the wrong door thing. You could scum very easily. You stick your thumb in. It's like, oh, I failed. I'm going to turn back and keep going, which is your own call. You can do that. But
there's actually a really great in one of the choose your own adventures. I don't remember if it's the ninja one or there's one of them. It might be the time travel one. Whatever the case may be, you literally in like the first maybe 6 or 7 choices have the option to just not do it. Like just be like, this doesn't sound cool. You flip the pages like you go home and go to sleep for the night and wake up the next day and go back to school. Like that's this is crazy.
It's a Far Cry 4 ending. Yeah. Or a
Yeah.
Shadow Complex ending. That kind of thing. It's like, you know what? This is not worth the hassle.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm going home. This is crazy.
Awful idea. It's just terrible. The weird thing is that these game books have had something of a revival now, thanks to iOS. You can get not only quite a few of the fighting fantasy books, but you can get a full. This is probably the best series that exists, Sorcery, which was Steve Jackson. So it was fighting fantasy, but it was a bit more advanced, and it's by the Inkle guys, the guys that made 80 Days, which was an excellent game. You can play Sorcery 1 through 3 on iOS and Steam, and they are probably the pinnacle of what most of those games could do. They had advanced systems. They had some really interesting ideas about their spell system, because it used a series of code words, and you'd learn the spells, and if you didn't know the spell, you wouldn't know which page to turn. Because instead of using just page numbers, it used code words, which was really cool. There's also a Judge Dredd one, which is really good on iOS, and there's a Warhammer 40,000 one, which is unbelievably unfair. Oh, it was... that I've died. I tried to beat it on a plane, and I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. I died so many fucking times. It's like, you stuck around a little bit too long. You were eaten by Tyranids. Enjoy this. This happens to you constantly. It's... oh god, it's brutal. Absolutely brutal. But that was the attraction of those games. Like, because they were really hard. And when you eventually beat them, it was really satisfying. Not to mention it was about trying to get kids to actually read books. So if you put a game element in them, a lot of us were like, oh, books are awesome. What?
Going back to games which are incredibly short, but you go over them again and again, there's an old interactive fiction game called Isle, which has literally, interactive fiction, examine, potato, drop,
text-based
potato, that
adventure,
sort of
basically.
game. Exactly, text adventures we used to call them. And you only have one turn, and then the game restarts. And you're just in a supermarket aisle, and you can slowly sort of piece together this story of what's happened to the character in it. It's quite interesting. God knows how you'd play it these days through some sort of interpreter, but
I
it must
believe
be at
it's
least 15 years old, probably older. Wasn't like a commercial release or anything.
Yeah, I believe because they used to be called interactive fiction. Now, of course, that term is kind of being hijacked by people who are making walking simulators, essentially, and it's saying, we're interactive fiction. It's like, no, you're not. Interactive fiction was text adventures. That was the name of the genre for the longest time.
It was fiction that was interactive. Yeah. There's the clue, guys. You weren't walking along and going, can I have a bit of story now? Please.
I mean, I'll look at the flowers. I can't interact with them in any way, but I'll look at them, right? Can I have a pretentious man ramble for a while? No, I've got to get 20 feet further. All right. Okay, yes.
I want to be the pretentious voiceover in one of those games.
You'd be ideal for it. I don't know why you haven't been picked up yet.
You are horribly pretentious. I don't know why no one's...
I know. Absolutely. I mean, I could do it off the top of my head. Edna was depressed. There were no more flowers in the garden that she could relate to. And yet, by taking a few more steps forward, perhaps the future would hold what her past had sadly withheld from her. There we are. Write a game around that.
Perfect.
It could be like 8-bit graphics except in 3D.
10 out of 10, Polygon.
Yep. Done.
Instantly.
Call me video game man.
I believe you mean woman. This is current year after all. 2016.
Video game person.
Person.
A
yes.
duck. I want this game written by a duck.
A duck.
Gen-
There's nothing more progressive than a duck.
A gender-neutral duck.
Gender-neutral duck.
Yes.
Who had some very good hits in the 70s. It was a prog rock band, I believe.
His hair, his feathers sort of waft in front.
Just over one eye.
Over one eye.
Hey, wait, like this.
They're still touring. It's unbelievable. They're so old now, but yeah, still going at it.
Sam, you are the gender-neutral progressive rock duck of this podcast. One little swoop, and there you go. Yep.
The chat is now full of ducks. Oh god.
Whack.
Yes, so you can't have interactive fiction, you can't have roguelike either. They both have specific definitions. Quit fucking with them. If you want to call it something, think of something else. I like virtual installation, I think is good. Because it's basically an art exhibit. You walk through it, you experience it. You wanted your games to be art? Then call them art. Stop calling them games.
Speaking of being overwhelmed by a lot of things, I'm looking at chat and it's just all geese right now.
It's all geese and ducks. Yeah, it's nothing but.
You mentioned roguelite or roguelike, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
There have been an overwhelming tidal wave of those games over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm just like, where was it decided that this was the game people wanted? Like, this is the style of game people wanted. Is it because of things like oh god,
it's Isaac's fault.
Binding of Isaac? Yeah, is it because of that? Or
yeah, that's exactly why.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, so the revival of the genre, which really is not a revival of the genre per se, because it's not a roguelike. Because roguelike, it has a specific definition, and these games don't really fulfill them. They are roguelike-likes, or roguelites. You know, I like roguelite. I think that's a nice term. Those games go back to the early 80s, possibly even late 70s, with games like Hack, NetHack specifically, with games like Rogue, which is why it's called roguelike, and then games like Angband and Umoria. And those were games where you played a dude, or a woman, whatever, or a goblin, you know, goblin dude, goblin woman, whichever you liked. You had lots of different choices. You were actually represented by a text symbol. Usually you were at, as in, you know, at gmail.com, you were a walking at. Everything else was a letter, so you went and fight lowercase t's and uppercase w's, very dangerous uppercase w's, and they usually represented different monsters, and the game only moved when you did. So it was pseudo-turn-based. You could actually play the turns through real fast. As soon as you pressed left to move, that's a turn. You press to attack, that's a turn. So you can take turns real quick, or you can take them really, really slow.
So is Super Hot a roguelike?
I'm gonna go with probably not.
That's because it isn't.
Yes.
You don't say.
Yes, I'm going to assume probably not, although it could have been, interestingly. But that's not the only thing that they featured. That was the kind of the way you could identify that particular genre, but they had a bunch of other things. They usually featured permadeath. They usually featured an overworld, which was a town hub with a randomly generated dungeon. So in the town hub, you could buy shit, and then you went down into the dungeon, and it was randomly generated, and you encountered stuff. Umoria and Angband were all based on Lord of the Rings. So you could get in there, and I believe it was possible, based on kind of weird randomness, that you walked in there and immediately Sauron showed up and you died. It was a little brutal. Most of the time it was you are fighting a bag of worms or a dog. But sometimes one of the randoms would show up. It's like, this is Grimoire Wormtongue. He is level 99 and casts 5,000 spells and you die immediately.
Locked in an intense battle with a bag of worms.
With a bag of worms. There was,
I'm losing, they've got me.
Oh, ew!
There's a,
How fucking bad adventurer do you have to be? I don't get it about games nowadays where they're like, kill rats, kill, puppies to level up, kill the flowers.
It's been a thing for a while, hasn't it?
Kill the pigs.
So the name of the monster
None of these things
specifically...
even fight back. Why is this even a thing?
You have to learn to kill.
You need
have
to
start
you need
somewhere and learn
experience.
to kill.
Fuck, then kill a man. Kill a man is... like, don't kill a fucking...
Kill a man.
rabbit.
This week on Career Advice.
Kill a man.
Kill a
Preferably
man.
two. So the name of the mob that we're talking about was the White Worm Mass. So it is literally a pile of tiny worms. The description
I think
of it.
White Mass used to tour with Gender Neutral Duck.
I believe they did. They were in support. They did have some issues with their drummer. They had to swap him out later.
Death metal's finest.
Indeed. So the description, because every monster had a very detailed description, because you could look at them, and that was part of it. Because obviously the game didn't have graphics. It was all about, so they described the monsters to you. It is a large, slimy mass of worms. This natural creature is normally found at the depths of 50 feet and moves extremely erratically and slowly. It's rarely detected by telepathy.
Finest.
Indeed. So the description, because every monster had a very detailed description, because you could look at them, and that was part of it. Because obviously the game didn't have graphics. It was all about, so they described the monsters to you. It is a large, slimy mass of worms. This natural creature is normally found at the depths of 50 feet and moves extremely erratically and slowly. It's rarely detected by telepathy. It breeds explosively. It's hurt by bright light, but resists poison and rock